Welcome back to Greels Reels, everybody. Today's guest, I'm honestly thrilled for. Growing up in Clarenville as a goalie, this guy was definitely my idol. He backstopped the Caribous for a number of seasons, from Allen Cups to Herder Championships. Time with the Mooseheads, NHL draft pick. The list goes on and on. Jason Churchill, how you doing, man?
Good, good. Busy summer. Interesting year so far, but I'm doing great.
Yeah, hey, you're in Halifax now, eh? You've been working there for a little bit.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm working with a helicopter company that flies people offshore. I actually just took a new position with a different company, which is going to be relocating myself and my family in Victoria, BC.
Okay, that'll be an exciting move for you.
Definitely an adventure, that's for sure, especially on top of everything else for what 2020 is bringing us. But it's definitely going to be an adventure.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll just, dive right into the hockey. I mean, growing up, down the arm and whatnot, I was fortunate enough to actually play a season of minor hockey with your younger brother and whatnot. But I mean, yeah, growing up down there and just kind of learning the game and stuff like that. How did it all kind of really happen, and where the love and passion drive from?
Yeah, so I have an older brother as well, which is a year older, and my father put both of us in hockey. I think I was around 4 years old. My brother was around five. And right as soon as we started playing, like being competitive people by nature, I guess I competing against my brother. Hockey just kind of fell in place pretty easily. We grew up playing street hockey down our way and grow up like, the traditional pictures of playing hockey in a pond. We did all that. And we have a lot of friends that grew up down there and played minor hockey in Clarenville. And, you know, um, my, my parents were a big contributor to, contributing their time to put us in hockey and stuff like that. So, uh, a lot of my passion comes through my father as well, which um, he took the time to sacrifice and like that. So like I felt a bit of drive as I got on later in my career to try to pay back something that they sacrificed a lot of time for.
Yeah, no, it's super important, and I mean, in a lot of athletes, it's really a common trend that people just have like that. That one or two people within that inner circle that is always just constantly a support system, which is seems to be key.
It is for sure. It is.
And so, I mean, just kind of growing up in Newfoundland, I mean, a struggle for a lot of athletes have always just been kind of, getting your name out there. And, some people have to leave to kind of, get recruited and find spots, or, get on those draft boards for Q teams and whatnot. So, I mean, the Mooseheads took you in the seventh round back in 2002. What do
That's
you think? What do you think really, I guess, accredited to them finding your name on the draft board?
Um, Good question. I don't know. I guess we can call up Ali McDonald or Kipper LeBlanc, the head scouts of the Mooseheads, and ask the same question. But I don't know. My minor hockey, I always played in Clarenville, so we never always had the greatest of teams. So I had a lot of action, and I guess a lot of time to develop as a goalie, facing a lot of shots and to develop with a lot of adversity, I guess. As my hockey career developed, I got a chance to play with the AAA team with the Tribe and Frost at the time, and we had some good players on that team, which probably attracted some more attention from scouts. We had Adam Party and Brandon Roach and Daniel Ryder and a couple of young and up and coming players. And luckily, that year I played well. Maybe a lot of people didn't know who Jason Churchill was at that time at that level of hockey. And the few times that we did travel come to Atlantic Canada to play. We played against players like Sidney Crosby, who played with the Dartmouth Subways at the time. So I feel like he might have had a few scouts in the stands that that might have attracted some more people to games that we played against them. So like maybe someone said, "Oh, well, who's this young goalie playing?" And the other end is playing well, I guess. And so yeah, I guess that attention and you know, luckily enough, I got drafted to the Mooseheads. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean that makes a lot of sense, honestly, because yeah, you mentioned it. I didn't even realize that too, and it just kind of clicked there because I mean, you're part of a group within Newfoundland hockey athletes that honestly are pretty incredible and pretty unique group. That I mean, they're like you said, Daniel Ryder, Adam Party. Teddy Purcell's around that age group
right.
as well too. Like, I mean, that's just like in terms of like a core aspect of Newfoundland hockey history. That group in itself is pretty important. How's it feel to kind of be tied in with all that? Because I mean that for me that's the role models growing up, right? Like I mean
For sure.
watching those guys play in the NHL and play in whatever rank it may be, right?
Yeah, no, it's cool. Hockey is a tight knit family. At whatever level you play at, um, everybody from Newfoundland who played at somewhat of a competitive level, they know each other. Like I still know my um, a few guys that I played with in Clarenville that I grew up playing minor hockey, but I'm still good friends with. And then I know a lot of people that I play major junior with that are from all over the world that I'm still good friends with. But so again, it's a small world, and especially coming from Newfoundland, you're even smaller. I know most of the guys that played at a higher level, and a lot of times you come home in the summer and you train and you're skating during the summertime, and so you get to know these guys personally, and it's pretty cool to be, I guess, mentioned within the group with those guys who played in the NHL.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, we'll go right back to those Halifax days because I mean that's in terms of Q organizations, Halifax is definitely in the top ranks, and that's kind of how we got reconnected. Because
For
when I was
sure.
in Halifax there before everything got shut down with the U Ottawa men's hockey team, I got to check out one of their practice facilities and was just reading all the names on the board, and then I came across a an NHL draft picks list, and your name was there, so I sent you a little message. It was nice, kind of memory lane road, but yeah, I mean, take me back through those like first few days with the Mooseheads there and walking into that organization for the first time.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun road. It was a big eye opener for myself coming from a small community like Hodges Cove, and that's from Newfoundland. You get up here and be part of an organization like that. It's phenomenal. So yeah, so drafted out of midget. Actually, Adam Party's rights was owned by Halifax at the time. So we actually got billeted together our first training camp in Halifax. And being a bit naive, coming to like a major junior team, and you didn't know what to expect. Like, I kind of just got thrown. My hockey development happened pretty quick. So went from like minor hockey Clarenville, 1 year of midget, and then bam, here I am in Halifax trying out for one of the best major junior teams arguably in the country. And so it's a bit of a shock value, but it's like you're in awe a bit because you're playing in Harbour Grace Midget AAA Arena. Now you're like in the Metro Center, which is like, you see, it's a beautiful facility. So here I am, built it with me and Adam Party with our billets, and we're trying it for the team. And, I get out there, I'm nervous. I had my first practice, and, it's okay. It's a big adjustment. Then you start getting into inner squad, and you start to see, what, I'm doing well. Like, this is kind of cool. And you start getting, some hype around you, and people are approaching you like, where do you play? And stuff like that. So at the end of that training camp, I was named the third goalie, and I stuck around later, probably late until October. At that time, Adam Party got sent down to Yarmouth, and he had some issues there. So he ended up getting his rights traded to Anakinis Junior A. Also, I was drafted in the Junior A draft, and my rights were owned by Miramichi, and they got put on loan to Anakinis Junior A. So October that year, me and Adam Party ended up getting sent down to Anakanish Junior A for a couple of months. So we built it there, and um, I think around Christmas I got called up and got a few games under my belt, and as a young kid playing my first major junior game in regular season, you get 10,000 fans there in the Metro Center. It was quite exciting. Um, so I finished out that year as a third goalie with the Mooseheads. Maybe got some 20 games or so in, 15 or 20. And the following year I came back, getting a taste of it. I was really eager to get back, maybe full-time roster position, maybe a second goalie or whatever. I worked very close with the Moosehead goalie coach, which I don't think I ever had a goalie coach through minor hockey or anything like that. Not a dedicated goalie coach. Patrick Delaire was his name. He worked with Pascal Clare when he was going through the major junior and world junior ranks, and so he taught me the butterfly style, like what you see in the NHL today, like hybrid, very technical game. And I guess being an athletic person, self-proclaimed there, my game kind of took off from there, and it just, I started playing really well and having those new tools in my back pocket. It just, I guess, attracted a lot of attention from, I guess, NHL teams then as well.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting actually, because that's another thing. Like you're saying all these things, and it's clicking in my mind too. That like these butterfly style of goaltending just wasn't really a norm at that point yet, right? Like, so I mean, what were you almost the first initial thoughts there when that got introduced to you?
Well, my initial thought, because at the time most goalies knew what a butterfly was and all that, and I went to some hockey schools locally in Newfoundland and had goalie coaches that ran hockey schools there, but nothing at an elite level. So when I found out that the Mooseheads had a goalie coach, I'm like, well, I couldn't grasp what he was going to teach me, because I was like, I know how to T-push, I know how to shuffle, I know how to butterfly. I was like, I don't know what he's going to teach me. But then, being a bit naive and then actually sitting down and talking to him, and he was going through some of the stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, like it just like, so open up my mind, because it opened up a whole new game, like a whole new part of the game that I did not even imagine happens or could exist. So I contribute a lot of my success to being I guess a bit raw until I got to that point, and then all of a sudden you introduce a lot of technical parts of games that I did not know existed, and then you get a bit of a combination of both. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. So now, you're kind of diving into like that full-time role with the Mooseheads there. And I mean, looking at some of the numbers in terms of, just like longevity, which is something that is pretty apparent for you, through like your whole career. But I mean, you go from, just getting called up to, playing 4 games, and now all of a sudden in a 68 game season, you're playing 53, 54, even, we'll get into the Sea Dog time there too, but in a little bit. But yeah, like 63 games with them in a 68 game season is pretty nuts, right? So, how was that adjustment for you?
It was tough, to be honest with you, because again, being a bit unprepared coming from Newfoundland, um, my physical fitness wasn't at the level to play 63 games or 50 games in a queue, because it is a NHL type of season. You don't have much time off. So there was a lot of work that had to be put into that part of my game, which did eventually end up coming back around to help me. But the longevity of the season, it is a bit of a gauntlet, but it's so fun. Like the mental part of it for me to get motivated is a big thing of it. You know, getting up for a Sunday 3 o'clock game after you're playing Friday or Saturday. I think most people struggle with that. So I contributed my mental part of the game to be a big part of my success, to be able to log that much time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I mean, Through your time in Halifax, are there any like to this day some special memories that you kind of go back with, or even some things where it's just like some if someone were to ask you like, hey, what's your favorite
Yeah,
Moosehead story, or like who are some of the guys that like you just love playing with? What are some just
yeah.
first responses?
There's definitely a lot. Put it down to a moment. Like one of the ones that stick in my mind. I believe I have a picture on my phone, and an actual picture of myself is the games that I played against Sidney Crosby. Seeing see such an icon in the NHL, and I've done well against him. So that's definitely a memory that sticks out. The whole playoff run there, my last year was very interesting. Losing this to Rimouski and Sidney Crosby in the President Cup final. Um, but even down to my first game, seeing when my parents came up and watched me play, uh, and like that's a memory that I'll always have. And like I said before, I have friends that I've had for life, and I still live in the city now, and I contribute that to being to hockey and being drafted here, because I probably would never live in Halifax if it wasn't for hockey. But from memories, it goes on. The list is long, and it's hard to pinpoint to just one for sure.
Hmm. No, yeah, that's incredible. Those Sidney Crosby days must have been something pretty unique. That I mean, maybe over the last couple of years with Lafreniere, we've kind of gotten to see a replication of it to some
Mm-hmm.
point. But yeah, no, those were definitely some wild times with the Q.
Yeah.
Um, leaning into now, just that year, like your last year with the Mooseheads, was also the year that you the 2004 year. So the Sharks end up calling your name in the fourth round there of the NHL draft, and I mean, '04 was an incredible, really historic draft for the NHL. You got Ovechkin, Malkin, and whatnot, but we'll go back to kind of just your personal draft day experience and your draft story. Where were you? What were you doing? Kind of thing. What was the
Okay.
initial thought?
Um, so yeah, I actually attended the draft. It was in North Carolina, Raleigh, and I had a good year, my draft year. So I didn't know where I was going to fall. Like they had to come up with the central scouting ranks, but it's so hard to know exactly where you're going to go because it's so dependent on what teams need at that particular pick or whatever. So at the time, I had an agent, and he flew my family down because I guess he realized how important it's going to be, how important a moment it will be for myself and my family. So yeah, we flew down to North Carolina. I was down in the stands, and I got to watch all those players get drafted. I remember seeing Malcolm walking down by me, and Ovechkin. Actually, Sidney Crosby was down in the lower concourse as well, just kind of taking all in because I guess he knew he was going to get drafted very high next year, and we were such a hotly touted player. He wanted to go through some of the experience himself pre-hand, but yeah, no. I remember day one, my name never got drafted, which was a bit disappointing because you're sitting there and you hear players get called, and not just I was anticipating. It's just that you're there, you're in the moment, and you hear names getting called, and you maybe feel that you had a better year or better stats and one guy to get drafted or whatever. And then the next day came, my name got called fairly early, so which was super exciting. You get to go down and you get the jersey on. At that point, you don't go to the stand; you just go down and meet the organization on the round table, and then you go on, and then I shook Doug Wilson's hand and all those and Hunter and all that, and then you go on and take some pictures with your jersey, and then your family meets you up in like a concourse, and you just have like um, you know drinks and hang out, and you get to meet the organization a little more, and you continue on, and you then you just go on and celebrate. I guess it's a pretty surreal moment. Like it's such a long time ago as well, but it was a massive smile. Like it's a feeling you can't describe really because all your life you just dream about a moment like that, right? And
Yeah,
when it happens, it's like boom.
yeah, no, 100%. And it's like it's incredible to think too, because I mean, I kind of remember. I know I was probably 7 at the time, and like you can kind of have like brief remembrance of like Oh, like Jason just went to the Sharks organization and whatnot. But I think what's pretty cool too is like you went into that organization at a time when they had some pretty incredible guys to learn
Yeah.
from with Vesa Toskala and Evgeny Nabokov and whatnot. Did you get a chance to really kind of take in any educational stuff from guys like
For
that?
sure. Yeah. So yeah, no, San Jose had a great goaltender program, and they done a lot of individual goalie schools. So we brought all the goalies and young prospects of the San Jose organization, and he put. I remember having one in Boston. So Toskala was there, Nabokov was there, Thomas Greiss was there because he was drafted the same year as I was. I think he was in the second round, and then there's a few other goalies that attended camp. Schaefer, this guy Schaefer, I think it was. So yeah, you get down, and we'd had rookie camps as well. And when you go to rookie camps, you usually we started off in the San Jose actual practice facility, and then the actual players like Nabokov and all those are actually practicing there. So you get to go in and meet them and chat with them and see how they play. And that's when the reality sets in. You get to see these players, and they're also NHL caliber players, and you compare them to yourself. So and you're like, oh my God, this might actually happen. I might actually get a chance to play in the NHL. I'm not that far behind. You know what I mean? But again, it happens so fast. 1 year you're in Clarenville playing minor hockey, midget AAA, major junior band, and you're trying out for the NHL. It almost happens too fast because looking back, you don't really get to. It's kind of surreal. You don't really get to enjoy it as much as you probably think you probably should. But no, it's definitely it was quite the experience, and it's
Yeah, it's definitely a crazy transition period too when you think about it, right? Because I even just think of like when I, left for university the first time, and it's like going from Clarenville to Ottawa, and I mean the first time I was ever in Ottawa was when I moved to Ottawa, right? And like all of a
yeah,
sudden you're going from a small town of like 6,000 to like working university football, which has like we have one game of a season that has like 24,000 people, and I'm just taking it all in. I'm like, holy smoke, this is like four times bigger than my hometown right now.
yeah,
It's definitely a massive transition period, and another transition for you, just kind of getting back to the Q is after that draft. You end up having that 1 year stint with the Sea Dogs.
yeah.
So I mean, just kind of tell me about the adjustment of last kick at the can. It's a whole new organization for you, and like we said with the longevity. I mean, that was a season where you played 63 games out of like 68. So I mean that in itself is something that's pretty unheard of now.
Yeah. So you don't get to take a night off when you're at this level of hockey. So it starts off like how I got into the Halifax lineup. There was a goaltender named Jonathan Boutin, which was drafted third round, I believe, to Tampa Bay, and I was supposed to be the backup at best at that year. So you learn pretty quickly you can't take a night off. So we're competing. I end up stealing the number one position from him that first year, my first major junior year, or Halifax Moosehead year. Then the next year, I came in. I was, the underdog, which was that eventually I got the job. And then the following year, the year we went deep into the playoffs, I ended up starting, being a number one goalie, and played really well up to Christmas and even after Christmas. But they traded for a backup because we never had a backup at that time. So, and they get this goalie named Jonathan Duchesne. And I struggled like 5 games before the playoffs started, and he ended up getting put in relief myself, and he ends up playing really well, and he ended up finishing off the year and starting playoffs, and had a really good playoff run. He was the hot hand, so he continued on. The following year, where they wanted to run with him, and I was a 20-year-old, they decided to trade myself to the new expansion team, the St. John Sea Dogs, for Andrew Bondarchuk. And here I am in St. John with a new organization, and a great organization at that. When we get in there, I didn't know what to expect or whatever, coming from a Halifax, top tier organization. You get in there and, meet some great people. It's a great organization. You quickly realize that. But they're a struggling team. Like you're averaging, I think I averaged like close to almost 40 shots a game. Like it was pretty high for an average for sure. And you're just getting peppered, and you're playing a lot of hockey, and it's exhausting. But yeah, my numbers are, I think, went a little little haywire on that season, but it was still a really good year. I think I might have won like a couple of player of the month for Quebec Major Junior. But then, as you can see, my game, or if you look at the trending of the season, at the end of the season, my stats kind of got a little worse as the season went on because the season paid its toll on myself, obviously, and but it was definitely a gauntlet when you're playing that many games. It's definitely something that sticks out in my memory that it's a battle.
Yeah, and I'm actually curious because you've mentioned it a few times now. Just the fact of like kind of getting peppered with shots, and it kind of rings a bell in my head because I know someone told me. So last season for the U Ottawa GG's women's hockey team, they had a
Mm-hmm.
new first year goalie recruit, and apparently her development was at a CEGEP school. And when she was picking a CEGEP school, she basically chose the one where she knew she was going to get peppered with the most shots. So she was getting like 55, 65 shots a game. And then sure enough, she, starts her first season off in the, in the U Sport leagues with, being a rookie. And really, once she kind of, solidified that starting job, just rolled with it. And, that team seen like a great playoff run. How much, like, what do you think in terms of like development for goalies is like super important? Just to, what, at the end of the day, despite all the training and whatnot, maybe even find yourself in a situation where you're just constantly getting peppered, 40 plus shots a game, maybe even on that higher side.
Super important. It's at the end of the day, every goalie is playing a game of hockey, and you have to stop a puck. It doesn't matter what you practice or what you think you should know and how good you are technically. At the end of the day, you have to stop pucks. So the best way to practice that is to get in a game and get shots. And it's a hard way to learn for a lot of people because you're going to get scored on a lot of times. You're not going to have the good stats. You're not going to have the numbers, low numbers that some of these other goalies have. But like it's if you're getting 20 shots a game and you're getting 2 goals scores against you, that's like a 900 save percentage. But if you're getting 50 shots a game, which it's a lot of action, and you're getting 3 or 4 goals scored against you, your save percentage is going to be a little higher or a little lower, and your goals against is going to be a little higher. But as for development, it's to me that's most important than anything. There's no practice or video or anything like that's going to replace that type of experience. And to me, that's the number one development is to get in there and get shots. But with new analytics to the game, I think it's becoming apparent that is better. The save percentage and goals against average are stats that would help, but like you got dangerous shots, where the shots were scored from. So all that has value, and it's becoming more apparent that, the goals against is a little high, but his dangerous shot save percentage is higher. So I think if you look at that and as that analytics gets better, it will trend with more shots.
Yeah, it's almost like short-term pain for long-term game, essentially, right? And yeah, like you said, the analytics in hockey is expanding more and more, right? So I mean, yeah, like you see it on Hockey Night in Canada when they look at the shot tracker and stuff like that. They have that little home plate pyramid kind of setup, and it's like, yeah, you know what? Okay, this goalie might have had 30 shots, but 5 of them were in that danger area. Whereas,
Exactly.
this guy had 30 shots, but 15 of them were in that danger area, right? So yeah, there definitely seems to be more of evaluation and education kind of coming to the game and whatnot.
And it creates character sometimes as well. Sometimes it sucks getting scored 4 goals on, but you're the guy and you have to come back out. If a goalie never ever hits that adversity, or any player in any position, if they don't have any adversity, I feel like you can just sail along. And when you do get to a level where you need it, you struggle or whatever. If you hadn't experienced before, it's tough to deal with it at that level, and it might spiral you out of a job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a great point. And so now this is probably going to be my favorite part where we just kind of dive into the senior hockey days. So, I mean, this is obviously kind of where I got to know you and whatnot, and like our relationship started. And just like I said, it was kind of cool for me being a kid in the community, and like because it was probably you were playing for the Caribous probably for about uh, I want to say almost to the part of like 9 years maybe before I
Yeah.
really started getting involved. So I mean, for like I said, I grow up in that hometown as a kid who's a goalie. Obviously, like the president of the senior league, automatically just by default, you're the role model, you're the strive, you want to make saves like
Yeah.
Church and whatnot. Yeah, let's just going back and making that adjustment, and being a rookie in that senior league right from the start. You probably you went from being the old guy on the block in the queue, and now you're back to being probably one of the younger players in the league.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely because I didn't know senior hockey was kind of on the up and rising. It was kind of a small league when I first started. And Clarenville, I remember when they had a team the first year, I was like, oh my God, I was talking to my father back home because at the end of my major junior career, I was going to go play minor pro or go to university and play Atlantic with the Acadia X-Men or UPEI. I had a few universities that were kind of talking to me actively. And then I heard that Clarenville got a senior hockey team. I said, that's cool. I didn't know much about it. And I think I was talking to Dustin, and they were like, yeah, we just got a senior hockey team. We don't know what it's going to be like. And it had no magnitude at that time because senior hockey, was kind of in a bit of a lull for a couple of years. So that's all I thought about it. And then, as I started looking at like after hockey careers and stuff like that, and then Dawson was talking to me ongoing. He's like, yeah, just come play senior hockey, and we'll, you can go to school and do all this. And sure enough, I started playing senior hockey. And our first year, they had a pretty rough start. And I think I joined like 4 or 5 games into the season, and they got blown out a couple times. And next thing you know, Clarenville had a bit of hype, and I came back, and we get peppered again a couple of times, but we pulled off a full victory. I think we had like 50 or 60 shots on me, they had a great game, and everyone's like, oh my God, we got Churchill in the net, and we got a good little team. We could score a few goals, and we got, some other players coming like Derek Kent and Brad Cran. And so like senior hockey really started to take off, and it was very enjoyable because I'm home, I get to show my skills that I developed over the last 4 or 5 years playing major junior, and now I get to show it in front of my friends and family, and get to be home, and it's it was good timing for myself because senior hockey was really starting to take off and become popular. I remember the old Clarenville Arena used to be jammed.
Yeah, that was. I got some memories of just like basically sat on my dad's shoulders and or hanging off the pillars just to be able to see in the in that old tin can, right? But yeah, it's incredible to talk about and look, and like even thinking about the old tin can. It's like Home Hardware storage unit now, like where they put their excess lumbar, right? And now you look at the East League Event Center, and it's getting probably I can't remember the year, but it's probably 6, 7 years old now, maybe something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. Was it 2000? Was it 2010? Maybe.
Yeah, it might actually, probably maybe even a little bit older. But, anyways, yeah, it's just like you look at that rink, and that's a great facility in terms of Newfoundland standard, and even across Atlantic and across the country. It's definitely one of the nicer rinks for
Sure.
minor hockey and whatnot. But so tell me now, like the first time, I guess, when you really remember kind of dreaming about that herder and realizing that was something that, you really kind of wanted to get your hands on, and how to feel when you finally did.
For sure. I remember back when I was a kid in minor hockey, I remember when senior hockey kind of came to Clarenville for a few years, and I remember watching going up in the old heritage room, they used to call it, and watch senior hockey then, and like being a little like rink rat running around, like probably like everyone was who played minor hockey, and you see senior hockey, you hear people talking about the herder, and you see pictures of it, and then it kind of left my memory. But then you come back, you're playing senior hockey, and being a competitive person that I am in any sport that I play, I'm like, okay, what's on the line here? What can we play for? So you start talking this, Herder. All right, let's do it. And, we had a bit of a weak team starting off, and we had to go through like the Darren Langdons and the Colburns of the Deer Lakes, they were dominant for years, and then you had to play against Harbour Grace, which were dominant for years as well. And then so you're playing, and the team starts doing well. And then one year we beat out Deer Lake in the West Coast, because they had a West Coast and East Coast team, our league at that time. And we beat out Deer Lake in a battle for the first time. And a lot of people were just happy with that, you know what I mean? Because like Deer Lake they had the control of the West Coast trophy for a while, and the West Coast Championship. And that was a victory in its own. And then, we're moving on to play Harbour Grace one year. Now it's real. You're in the Mile 1 at that time. And the Mile 1 was being jammed full of fans. And it was a weekend event for the Herder. And, it brought me back to those young days when being in Clarenville in the Heritage Room, when everyone's talking about the Herder, and you're like, now I got a chance to bring it back to Clarenville, or not bring it back, win it for the first time. Mm-hmm. And kind of a bit of an underdog team and new upcoming team. And so you had a lot of people against you and whatever, but sure enough, we pulled off the victory, and at that time there was no better trophy to win. Like, to me, that was my Stanley Cup at that point, because I knew senior hockey was going to be the end of my professional career. But after we won that, it was like there was no other higher trophy that I could win until Derek McPhee comes to me and says, "Yeah, I think we're going to go to the Allen Cup next year." I'm like, "Oh my Jesus!" And but yeah, it was pretty fun. Like, senior hockey at that time was kind of, it was nothing compared to it. It was almost like a major junior feeling, and the atmosphere from the town, from the fans. It was awesome. I remember playing with people that were flown in from Halifax, and they were like blown away how exciting senior hockey was in Newfoundland. You got tons of fans. They loved senior hockey. We loved coming out and playing it. It was competitive, but it was the memories that will stick for me forever, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember someone telling me too, the first time you guys won that Herder, there was a little moment where you guys started almost tossing the trophy back and forth to each other on the ice, like probably like 10 yards apart or whatnot. You can just kind of tell from that in itself, just the excitement of the moment there, right?
There's tons of history with that trophy. A lot of people, like, it is a Newfoundland Stanley Cup. It is a big deal. It is only senior hockey, but we're all competitive people that play competitive hockey. So winning any trophy, you can put a block out there and we'll have fun winning it. You know what I mean? But like, to have some history tied to it, and a bit of bragging rights with the Newfoundland Herder, it's pretty fun. It's pretty cool, and big question is now you're always competing who got the most Herders, right?
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a good Newfoundland and this hockey. It's they love it, and
mm-hmm.
It's wicked.
No, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head, right? Like, I mean, everybody compares it to like the Newfoundland Stanley Cup, and you hear that so frequently. And I mean, even for myself, like, I mean, I'm no athlete anymore. I've been, removed from playing the game since high school and whatnot. But it's like, I've found a new career path, like with working with teams and stuff like that. So you really do kind of get into the motion, and whatever team you're working for, whether it's Gigi's football or helping out with the 67s, like, you want that team to succeed, and you want to do your part to be a part of that championship, whether it's winning a Vanier or a the OHL trophy, or even a Mem Cup or whatever. You kind of want to put your part into that, and there's still a piece of my brain that just still like clicks of like, man, it'd be awesome to go back and in some capacity be a part of a Herder championship.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Like, and when you're a part of a team, and a lot of people who's been a part of a sports team, it doesn't matter what you do on an organization. It all contributes to the team. You know what I mean? It all builds an atmosphere, which the players who play like that. And then when you build that atmosphere, you're building for success. Even if you're an equipment guy who fills up, water bottles versus the person who does the color commentary on a hockey game, like, it all builds an atmosphere, and it all contributes to, in my mind, to a successful organization. And being, obviously for like yourself, the Herder is, you're province that you grew up in, and it's a bit of a it has a bit of a spot in your heart, I guess, per se, if you want it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, I can definitely relate to what you're saying there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, so I mean, you mentioned it there because that's what I was, I was going to follow up with. You kind of beat me to it a little bit there, but that Allen Cup, I mean, like I don't, I'm trying to remember exactly like back. It was 2011, the exact year, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. I
yeah.
think
So I'm trying to remember to some conversations, and I feel like it was once again one of them underdog stories, right? Like where maybe you guys were the first Newfoundland team to win the Allen Cup,
so.
no?
I think
Or
on record, we were the second team. There was a team that won it in Corner Brook in like 1984, 85.
okay, yeah. I wasn't sure if there was somebody in there beforehand or not, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, let's go to that moment and kind of break down that whole tournament.
Well, let's go back to the year before.
Yeah.
And so we go to the Allen Cup the year before. It was in Fort St. John. And we had a phenomenal team. We get to we're all pretty excited. We're like, we get to pick up a few affiliate players. And we had, like, on paper, we had a team that was, an all star team in my mind. And being a bit confident, we go to Fort St. John and say, we'll do well and maybe win the Allen Cup. And we get up there and we realize how stiff the competition is and some of the names that were being played, some of the players that were playing. And we're like, and we get blown out. And we weren't even like really competitive, really. And we're like, oh my God. And then we want to go back there again the following year after we won that herder. So we put a team together and we never had the same interest because people were like, I don't want to go up there and get blown out and blah, blah, blah. So we kind of put a team together and we had a few more affiliate players from Harbour Grace at that time. And we could have definitely had a better team on paper if you had to use names. But we put a team together and we're like, okay, let's just go up and win our first game. Because we never even won a game in Fort St. John. And so let's go up to Kenora, was where the second tournament was, and just win a game. Let's be respectful here so we don't get blown out. And we win our first game, and then next thing you know, we're win our second game. And then we're like, oh my God, we're first in our division. Now we get a bye, and which is a massive advantage when you get a bye because you get a day off. And we're like, oh my goodness, we just got to get through this other team and playoffs and the crossovers, and then we're in the finals. And next thing you know, we're like, we're in the finals. We're going to be on TSN. This is big news for us. And we're playing against Bentley Generals. I think definitely Bentley. We're in the finals, and we're like, oh my God, these Bentley were the powerhouse of the Allen Cup. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
100%. They're just a constant name where everybody knows. Like, yeah, like Allen Cup. It's like, okay, yeah, Generals. Like that's almost where people deviate a lot too. But yeah, no, continue.
Yeah. So we're getting up and we're all super excited. We're couldn't sleep the night before, and because okay, besides being drafted in my younger part of my career, this is probably one of the most exciting moments because, like you said, no one won an Allen Cup in Newfoundland previous to 1985, which was a Corner Brook, which I feel a bit disconnected from because I'm that's the year I was born. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in Newfoundland who was in the hockey scene, they see it on paper, but they're not really connected. So this is kind of like the first Allen Cup that gets in modern day senior hockey is brought back. So, it's super exciting. We're going into it. We're going to play the Bentley Generals, so we got to slay the Dragon to win the championship. So, and sure enough, we get up on them early, and everyone's like, oh, this could happen. Like this is almost like something that should never happen. Again, like an underdog, and we pull off the win, and everyone is still in shock and awe. And it's we tackled the hurdle that was probably. No one thought we could ever do it because we got blown out the first year. The Allen Cup's a different battle than the herder. You're playing against the country's elite senior hockey players at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty nice feeling to win that one for sure because again, very different than the herder because it's Newfoundland versus the national level, and it's a different feel because it's almost like Newfoundland versus the rest of Canada. That's what it felt like, to be honest with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting that you say that too, because it's like, we finally seen pro hockey back in the island for the first time. So the Leafs have their ECHL affiliate, the Growlers, and right away, like the Growlers slogan is Growlers versus everybody, right? So there is always that kind of mentality, tied to Newfoundland, right? That we are always, we punch above our weight kind of thing, and we kind of work as hard as we possibly can to get the
That's right.
job done. And I'm boost your tires a little bit here now too, because I mean, that Allen Cup, like, a lot of the credits, goes to you. And I mean, obviously, yeah, team effort and whatnot, but you were definitely a standout in that tournament. And I mean, I walk into the East League Event Center and you see kind of the, whether it's like a Riley Fitzgerald art piece that's done from like to commemorate the that championship. It's like it's drawings of yourself and whatnot. And I don't know if you've seen any of this, but I mean, is it a little bit extra special too, just kind of knowing the impact that you had?
It is for sure. Anytime you can contribute to something to that magnitude, um, if you contribute more to it, yeah, it's a good feeling for sure. Um, we had a great team, a great defensive side, and we had a good. The team was very. Looking back, the chemistry on the team was well put together. We had the right mentality going into it. So, I feel like everybody, even the players that never played that much, or people sat in the stands, or whoever, feel somewhat the same way to maybe to some degree. They should, because they all contributed. So, like, in order to looking back and looking at all the games that I played and like you said, how well I played, I feel, yeah, it does feel good to look back at it and have a great tournament to be able to bring that trophy back to Newfoundland. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I think you really did hit the nail on the head that, everybody does take away a special part with it and stuff like that. So, I mean, you played for another, 7, 8 years after that championship. So, like, with a high as high as that, I mean, what are some ways that you replicated that, you think, throughout? I know, little stint there with the Cataracts Allen Cup as well too.
Yeah, no, it's tough to stay motivated after you're such a high. You know what I mean? It's easy to be good once in any sport, I guess, but to continue at that level, I mean, but like to continue to be good, that's where the challenge is, especially in senior hockey. That's where the challenge is really, from my point, my experience is that's where it's really hard. Which I think from my personal point of view, I think I might have struggled in and out a little bit in senior hockey after that, because it's a little bit of a challenge to get up mentally to keep playing after you reach such a high. But yeah, no, Grand Falls in Bucktouche was quite an experience as well, because they were looking for just some more experience on the back end or in the net, because they were hungry for an Allen Cup after the Clarenville Caribous won one, and they lost. They came close a couple of years they played, so they want some more. They want some more depth in net, and I'm like, yeah. Like, I look at their roster; they had a great bunch of guys. Like, even like I guess the rivalry between us and Grand Falls. You had to see past that.
Yeah, because I was going to mention that, like, I mean, in terms of, senior hockey rivalries, and I mean, you might know a little bit more than me, or you might say, quote unquote, hate a team a little bit more than what I think. But I think in terms of like Clarenville and Grand Falls Windsor, Caribous, Cataracts, like that's a big one there.
It was. I remember, like, not to do any name dropping, but there was a lot of individual battles. In a lot of series between us and Grand Falls in the early parts of my career of senior hockey, between like Ryan Penny and Brad Lewis, and the Grand Falls brings in like Martin Lapointe, and like and like, to me, like, that's when I think about like hard fought battles. Originally it was Deer Lake, and then the majority of my career was us against Grand Falls, and it's always been that. Like, so I guess if you look at rivalries, they were the most, like, playing hockey, senior hockey in Newfoundland, the most hated team from Clarenville's perspective, I would think, would be Grand Falls. And I'm sure you can ask Grand Falls players, and they'll be the same answer.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because so working with U Ottawa GGs and like their men's hockey team, they got a guy from he just graduated. He's their all-time assist leader now, Cody Drover. So he's from
Yeah.
Grand Falls, right? So I mean, we obviously got to know each other over the years, and like, I mean, you obviously got that connection of just both being Newfoundlanders. So me being from Clarenville and him being from Grand Falls, there's always like that little the chirp and stuff like that. And it's with everything too. I mean, he came out for a round of golf at Terra Nova.
Yeah.
And I mean, Terra Nova's Port Blandford, so it's still like a half hour from Clarenville and whatnot. But he was saying how beautiful of a course it was, and I was just like, yeah, see, that's why Clarenville's one up on Grand Falls Windsor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a battle that happens. Yeah, it'll never stop unless you join a team and you're like, like Newfoundland, whatever. It'll always be a battle or a competition for sure.
Yeah.
But that's what makes senior hockey fun. You know what I mean? Like it's
Mhm.
always, community versus community or town versus town. There's no different than when St. Clarenville had the Trinity Bay League. I remember playing for. Um, I'm from Southwestport, but Southern Southwest Arm, but they
Yeah.
had a goalie at Lee Smith, and I was playing for Southern Harbour, and I hated people from down the Arm, right? So but you get really into the roots of Newfoundland and its hockey traditions, and I think that's why you'll never see senior hockey fail in Newfoundland because there's a lot of love for the sport,
Hmm.
and there'll always be that competition between Clarenville and Grand Falls or whatever other communities. I'm sure there's every other communities that compete against each other just as hard. But that's what makes it fun, in my
Yeah,
mind.
no, 100%. And so I honestly, that's really everything that I have for senior hockey. I actually do want to mention too, just kind of going back at the beginning. Adam Party was a really familiar name for you, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you get to be billet brothers and whatnot, and you grow up from within the same district. I mean, Bonavista is definitely in terms of minor hockey a big rivalry with
Mm-hmm.
Clarenville there too, right? But so like we said, I mentioned the Growlers, and we got to see a pretty special moment where Newfoundland got its first pro hockey championship when they won the Kelly Cup there, and there was some locals on that roster, Party included, that what really got the cap off. Party in particular, got to cap off a pro hockey career in a pretty special moment. So I mean, going back to those first few days of playing with him and being billet brothers and getting sent around with him, what was that like? Just being a friend, getting to see someone that you grew up with cap off a career like that.
It's pretty awesome to watch. Anytime you see anybody, like you said, in a tight knit hockey family in Newfoundland succeed, it's great to watch. And especially, I had a little bit of a personal look at how he developed at his young part of his career. Through the Mooseheads and getting traded to Cape Breton, and he went through a big ordeal when he got sent down to Antigonish. He had issues getting released from his junior A team to go and play Cape Breton, and the GM there wouldn't release him, and it reached national level, like it was mentioned on Hockey Night in Canada and all that. So I seen a lot of his early personal growth issues in his career, and his battles that he went through in major junior, and then seeing him succeed in the NHL level and the pro level, and then, like you said, capping it off in his home province, and winning bringing such a prestige title to Newfoundland. It's nice to see, and it's awesome that he can have the chance to do that. I'm sure as he gets older and looks back on his career, he'll be more probably thankful for it for sure. And it's a memory that he'll have for the rest of his life, and he can really cherish it, and he'll be happy.
Yeah. No, honestly, it was. I remember watching that broadcast too, just from away and whatnot, and the whole organization did such a great job with just getting everything from broadcast to the product on the ice and whatnot. It was definitely a special moment for a lot of Newfoundlanders. And I mean, I remember being a kid going to the Fog Devils games, and I remember after when they were part of the Q team, the mascot threw up a puck to me, and that's a puck that I can still like find in my
Yeah,
garage to this day, right? So there was never a Q championship. There was like through it growing up with me, and then you go through the St. John's Maple Leafs, and then the St. John's Ice Caps, Montreal's affiliate, and
that's
like
right.
uh, that year where they went were part of Winnipeg and they made it to the finals, but they didn't they unfortunately lost in the finals and stuff like that. So it was a nice little like full circle kind of moment, or a long time waiting, and it was even more special to just kind of see Newfoundlanders who really kind of devoted their life to the game kind of get that special little send off, right? Or even just that special moment in particular.
No, exactly. You anybody is just a saying throughout this country. If you're from Newfoundland, Newfoundland's always going to be. If you grew up, born and raised in Newfoundland, Newfoundland's always going to be home. So in order to be able to win any type of championship, but like you said, the only championship that really got brought to Newfoundland at that pro level, it's a big accomplishment, that's for sure. And being from the province and be able to to take the opportunity, I'm sure they're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, and so I mean, there's no official reports or anything like that for senior hockey, but I mean, you've been removed from the game now for probably a couple, maybe a year and a bit. Is it? I guess are you officially retired from the senior hockey?
I'm never officially retired. If I can compete, I will put the pads on and play as long as I can.
Right.
Life gets in the way of that, obviously. I don't know if Ivan Hapgood will fly me from Victoria, BC to St. John's, and I don't know if my family will let me do that. But if there's a way, I would. But no, I've been trying to critique my craft as a player now. I'm playing a lot of beer league around here as a player, as a right winger or left winger, which is quite fun because you get a different perspective of the game. But who knows what Victoria has to offer? You never know. It might, but I'm pretty sure that senior hockey level hockey hockey is probably done for myself. But
well, I mean, if it means anything, Churchill is a pleasure watching you throughout the years. I gotta say. So honestly, man, this has been fantastic. That's everything that I got for you. So this is actually the part of the podcast where I just kind of hand the show over to you. So it's anything that you want to chat about. It could be a life lesson, childhood story, anything that you really want to, let the people know. It could be something that you're working on or whatnot. It's really up to you. But yeah, I mean, the show is yours.
Put me on the spot, but no, I could say a lot because some people like to say a ramble, but. No, if I had to cap it all together, it's hockey is a key part of my life, and it still will be, even though I'm retired from senior hockey, I guess, per se. But hockey is a big part of my life, and it will never leave. I'll move to BC, and I'll play some beer league, and I'll meet new people. So, from anybody who's in Newfoundland that's watching, I guess just take it, enjoy each step of the process, enjoy it while it lasts, because nothing will last forever, but and don't wish your time away, and enjoy it while you're there, and enjoy the moment, and don't think too much about it, and just play hockey.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great message to end off on. Jason, man, thanks so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man too.
I appreciate it too. Thanks. Hopefully your success as yourself continues on. I feel like you're definitely stepping up in that career of yours there, and I think you got some bright future ahead of yourself. So
I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, guys, to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. Like I said, this has been definitely a favorite one of mine. I've mentioned it a bunch of times. Growing up in Clarenville, Jason was definitely a big role model for myself, and just getting to watch him play was a real treat. So catching up and going down memory lane was a lot of fun here. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with a friend, and in the meantime, stay best kind.